A little reminder, the man that developed this curriculum that we're using in the books here, his name is Robert Lewis. He's a pastor and a counselor, and he developed this curriculum at his church. And we did it over at Crossroads when we were in Washington. It's very valuable. There are some things here you guys are going to catch that are very valuable to apply on what your idea of manhood looks like. How many of you guys have played high school or college sports? You guys, most of you guys, right? How was that experience for you? You look back at it, like, was it a good experience? You learned what it was to be a team, right? To go out there and as a unit do some damage, right? I know that you guys are aware that in many states they don't have pro teams. So in those states, football or let's just say college and high school sports are huge, especially in the middle of the country where there's no big sports teams to follow. They live and die for their high school sports, Friday Night Lights or whatever, and their college sports. I had heard a story of an Arkansas coach whose nemesis was the Florida Gators. You guys have heard of the Gators, right? And the coach, in order to illustrate to his team that they needed to do better in order to beat the Gators, he said to them, and this is a true story, he says, guys, in order to beat the Gators this year, you're going to have to be tougher. You're going to have to learn what it is to be tough. So what does he do? He goes and grabs a pail, and inside of it was a 2.5-foot alligator. Whoa. Right? And he drops his trowel, pulls his boxers down, just the backside, and attaches that alligator right to his butt. And he's walking around telling guys, this is how tough you're going to have to be to beat the Gators. Wow. And there's blood coming down his leg, and he's trying to tell the guys, this is what kind of toughness you're going to have to be in order to beat these guys. The coach poked the gator in the eye, and it released its bite. And the coach said, can any of you be this tough this year? Do you think you can be that tough? Who wants to be next? And a dumb lineman from the back said, yeah, coach, I'll go next, but I don't want you to poke me in the eye. Thank you, Pastor Rob. Obligatory laugh. Some of you guys are still trying to figure that out. That's good. Last week we discussed the fact that manhood is in the state of confusion. Mm-hmm. And we know that we're supposed to, go to school, do our best, go to college, trade school, have a good job, make good money, work hard, get married, and be a provider for our families. I mean, we know that part of being a man. The material part, the physical part, we have down pretty well. But we're talking about going above and beyond just the physical and the material part of being a man. Doing what is noble. Doing what is right. Living with integrity. Leading as you're being led of God. Having an eternal impact on those closest to you. Living for those things that matter the most, right? So number 2 there in your guide, it says manhood's 4 faces. We're going to talk about the 4 faces of manhood. And I think you'll agree at the end of this that it pretty much is right on. Face number 1, it's the face of the king. The face of the king. This is one of the 4 manhood faces. This face doesn't come easily in a man's life. As a matter of fact, this face is forged. Every day this man, as a young man from a boy to a young man to a married man, this face is forged every day through your parents, through your mentors, through your heroes, through your faith. It's about learning hardship and not just learning from them, enduring through hardship. Because you'll learn as you grow older and have more responsibilities as a man, you're going to have to endure some hardship. I have found in my personal life that the hardships get more severe as the older you get, and you get more consequential, Through these things and others, it develops our love for what is right. Our love for what is right. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about the face of the King. To love what is right over self-indulgence. It's the face of a man that shows when he's tempted to cheat on a test, to cheat on his wife. It's the face of a man that shows when it's time to keep his promise. Does he keep his promise? Does he keep his word? The king face is the face of a man who shows when he makes good on his debt. It's the face of a man who shows when he risks his own life to save another. The king face is a face of a man who, when he has this chance to have an affair or cheat on his God or cheat on his wife or cheat on his family, and no one will ever know, he does the right thing. The king face is the face of a man when his buddies are going off and they're messing up, that he has enough fortitude within his own life to say, hey man, that's wrong. That's not right. And risk that friendship and say, hey, you got to live right, man. It's not good. It's the face of a man that could take advantage of somebody when he goes and gets paid too much change, or if they don't charge him the right price and he goes back and says, you mischarged me. Not, oh, what a blessing. It's the face of a man that shows when someone needs help and he goes out of his way in the middle of the night to go help somebody who's broken down or is in jail or whatever the case may be. Go get that guy out of jail. That's the king face. Number one there in your sheet, this is the face that reflects righteousness. This is a face that reflects righteousness. A great example of this king face is found in 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 7 through 14. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 7 to 14, I think we talked about this past Sunday, was when the prophet Nathan came to David and told him that story and then said that you're that man that has been found guilty. For that prophet to go share that with King David, he put his own life on the line. God called him to, this is 2 Samuel 12, 7 through 14 is the whole story. God called him to be obedient, to go to the king. The king could have had him snuffed out like that. If David didn't accept it, if David didn't receive it, Samuel could have been done in a snap of a finger. Yet he tells David, you are that man. That's the king face. That's the king face that is obedient to the Lord and to the leading of the Lord. In my own life, that face looks like when the Lord called us to Washington, and we had no idea what it looked like or what was going on, but we felt the nudge. So we fleeced the Lord in a sense and said, well, we'll put our house up for sale. If it sells, then, maybe it'll be the Lord. Within 1 week, there's a bidding war on our house. Within a few weeks, we're driving away in the trailer, going to Washington, not knowing what that was going to look like. Crying. All of us crying as we left our family and our comforts and everything that we knew that was sure. Only to see that what the Lord was going to do as we came back, as we got trained up there and did pastoring up there and came back and planted the church here. Another example of this king face was actually King David. Because when Nathan came to him and said, you are that man, he had a choice. He had been covering up his sin for 9 months. Nobody knew what was happening. He covered it up. He killed Uriah the Hittite. He covered up his sin, all his tracks. So he could have got rid of Nathan and kept on going. But what did he do? He confessed. Now, no doubt David thought on his own, he admitted his guilt, but yet David could have easily thought, man, I could get my kingdom taken away from me. He could have been stoned for the murder and the adultery. So many things could have happened, but he confessed his sin to God. Number 2, the king face is characterized by strong conviction. That's that inner fortitude. Strong, courageous moral choices. It takes a courage to be an authentic man, doesn't it? To do what's right. It also takes a servant heart. We see that modeled by Jesus. And it takes righteous leadership. Doing what is right. The king face, as we mentioned earlier, is being forged in us with every decision we make every day. Guys, that forging process, I was watching it. I wanted to show it to you on video. But that forging process is pretty major. As they take a huge stainless steel chunk of metal, and they have this 500-pound just ram just coming down on it. Boom, boom, boom. And that thing just goes smaller and smaller, and that big chunk that was this big becomes as big as this right here, this square, as it just keeps pounding it. And they turn that side and they pound it some more to whatever shape. And that's what a forging is. Once that thing is forged, nothing is stronger than that piece of metal. And this is what I'm talking about when we're being forged into that man on a daily basis with every decision that we make. Or we're being weakened by our decisions every day. We're becoming stronger or we're growing weaker as a result of how we live. The better decisions and actions on a daily basis, more forging, more strength. The more giving into our pride, into our carnality, sarkekos, the more weakened we become. But it's a daily process nonetheless. It's either you're in a daily process of becoming stronger or you're in a daily process of becoming weaker. And you have to determine where you're at. Number 3 is this face is seen in Scripture. In Proverbs 4:18. This face is seen in Scripture. Proverbs 4:18. It says, "But the path of the just is like the shining sun that shines ever brighter into a perfect day." The day starts out dark, doesn't it? Those of you that wake up early in the morning, it's still dark outside, right? But it gets brighter. It gets brighter. And by the time it's 2 o'clock, it's full on bright. But it didn't start out that way. And this is what Proverbs is saying here. It starts out dark, but our lives start out dark, but we grow as we grow in the Lord. As we grow as a man, it becomes brighter. It becomes beautiful into the perfect day. Proverbs 4:18. And it's the same with life. It's the same with our spiritual man. We might start out in darkness. I know I was in darkness for a long time. And that cloud of drinking, that exists. And we start out sinful and shameful at times. But when conviction comes upon us and our relationship with the Lord starts to grow, we outgrow those things in our lives. I'm no longer shameful. I'm no longer that man in that cloud,
Praise God.
As a man puts on the king face, as we grow, we get better. We grow brighter. And we grow stronger. Proverbs 27, another scripture, says that the righteous man walks in his integrity. And as a result of that, his children are blessed after him. The righteous man walks in his integrity, and his children are blessed after them.
27 verse.
Proverbs 20, verse 7. Guys, there's a lot of meaningful things you can do for your children. You can buy them toys, take them to McDonald's, vacations. You can give them big hugs. You can spend a lot of time with them. You can give them unconditional love. But Proverbs 20 verse 7 says, your integrity is a gift to your children. And for those of you guys that don't have children, it will be a gift to your children. Your integrity will provide your children, listen to this, a core identity in which they can build their lives on. You ever see a father all screwed up? He's got kids. I can think of one now. I have a cousin. This guy is just all over the place, living in a park somewhere, homeless. But he's got children that, without foundation, without the father's correction and love and being in their lives, his presence in their lives, and they're all over the place. But the best gift that we can give our children is integrity.
Amen.
Foundation. And from there, they can build their lives on that. Phase 2. This is B. Phase number 2 of a man. We talked about the king face. Next is the warrior face. The warrior face. It's the face that says, yep, this is going to be tough, but we can get it done. It's the face that says, let's get her done.
Amen.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Get her done.
Get her done.
Get her done.
Cable head.
The cable guy?
Amen.
Or, who was the other one that would say, that was Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah.
Right? The warrior face says, hey, I'm going to take charge of this in my life. I'm going to take charge of my weight, and I'm going to live a healthier life. That's the warrior face, is the one that doesn't keep talking about it, that does it.
Amen.
The warrior face says, I'm going to pay off that debt that I owe.
Amen.
Even if I don't know how I'm going to do it, I'm going to pay that brother off because I owe him that. This is the face that reflects conquering energy. The face that reflects conquering energy. Without that energy and that drive to do better, you're not going to do better. Number 2, this face is characterized by taking initiative. You ever be around a man that just can't make a decision? Can't make the initiative? This face of a man takes the initiative and says, go for it. This face of a man is characterized by being protective, by providing, and he perseveres pain. He fights for what's right. This man fights for what's right. But not in a destructive, proud way, but in a humble and decisive. And that'd be the key word of this warrior man, is that he is decisive. So many men today are dull.
Amen.
Have you ever wanted to give up or quit? Especially when something you knew you had to do, but it was too hard. Have any of you given up on a dream that you had for your life, but because of the obstacles and the challenges, you gave up? Guys, in the meager beginnings of our church, I wanted to quit more than 5 different times. I was over. I was done. I tell Eileen, I don't want to do this anymore. She says, oh, you're feeling like that today. You know? It's too hard. I get exhausted. There's too much work to be done. And I'd make all kinds of excuses, and the dream could have died if I would have quit. But I knew that was my feelings and not necessarily the Lord leading me to quit. I asked the Lord several times to release me, and Lord, oh, maybe you brought me as a pastor to build the church to this point, and there's a more dynamic, more, a better pastor to take the church to the next level. Well, Lord hasn't brought anybody by yet to do that. The third warrior face, number 3, the warrior face is seen in Scripture. 1 Timothy 6:11 through 12, 12a, that is, the first part of 12. 1 Timothy 6:11 through 12. A, But you, O man of God,
Amen.
flee these things, talking about the things and the lust of the flesh, and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness. And then he says, fight the good fight of faith. Isn't that manly talk right there? Right? Pursue these things. These are things that are essential to all men, but are difficult. None of this comes easy to us. You have to fight to be this kind of man. But here's the older apostle talking to the younger disciple, talking to the younger man, saying, you got to fight to be this kind of man. It doesn't come natural. It doesn't come easy. And we all need to be in that fight to become better men. Flee the things of the flesh. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness. Paul says, fight the good fight of faith. As men, we all love the stories of the warrior. We love to watch those movies. Some of our favorites was When We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. Gladiator. 300. Braveheart. I mean, those are all movies that we love to watch because they're innate within us, and they bring out the warrior within us. They connect with us. There's nothing that this warrior loves more than to battle. But the battle is at work. The battle is a project. The battle is success. The battle is to be a better father. The battle is to battle the flesh and wake up early in the morning and go to work and be the best we can be at work. Amen. Or it might be a spiritual battle, as Paul tells us. We don't battle in the flesh when it comes to the things of the Spirit. We don't battle flesh and blood when it comes to the things, but it's a spiritual battle. And I love what Paul says. And you can just hear William Wallace from Braveheart say it, or you can hear Gladiator say it. Having done all to stand, stand with your loins girt about. Right? It's not like, just stand, guys. It's like, stand. Stand like a man. Phase 3, see here, is the face of the lover. This is kind of a little bit harder for the guys. The lover is as unnatural to a man as the warrior is natural to the man. Right? It's when the lover has to come off and take off the battle armor when he gets home, and he has to be soft. He has to be sensitive. And oftentimes it's not in our nature. Some of you guys are getting in bed with your wives with your armor on still. This face reflects romantic energy. This face reflects romantic energy. And it is characterized by tenderness. This man needs to learn to be tender. Sacrificial. Emotional openness. Meaningful affection. And selflessness. This was demonstrated to us, the sacrificial care was demonstrated to us at Faith House a few nights ago when John led us in worship. Mostly you led us in tears. But John has been taking care of his dad and going through some very strong challenges. His dad is at his end of life. But as John ministered to us in his rawness of his tenderness towards his dad, the sacrifice, a dad, there's some things a son should never have to do for his dad when it comes to caring for him and helping for him. I remember when my dad was nearing his life, and they had to change him in diapers. How difficult is that for a son to have to see that? But it's a special ministry also to be able to care for your dad in those last days.
Amen.
Sacrificial care, tenderness, emotional openness. And you know, we had some great bands that played that night. John's ministry was special. I told you that. It was special. The rawness that you shared with us. It was beautiful. That was that face of the lover. A man that loved his dad. And we really appreciated that. This face is seen in Scripture in Ephesians 5:25, where it says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her." The Lord is our model of what a man looks like. Now, some of you think of Jesus as that real soft-looking guy in pictures that we see. That's not Jesus. That's some artist's rendition of what they think Jesus should look like. Jesus was a blue-collar guy. Jesus was a carpenter. Jesus had calloused hands. He had strong hands, and he had veins popping out because of the wood and the things that he would carry. Remember one time he fashioned a whip and drove people out? Jesus, wasn't timid. He turned over tables and said, "You're not going to make my Father's house a den of thieves." He wasn't a wimp. He was meek, but he wasn't weak. Jesus passionately loved his church. Sacrificially loved his church. Come on, taking the brunt and the punishment of the cross. You think he was all timid? I'll bring it on. He says, "No one takes my life. I lay it down." Amen. He could have called a legion of angels, but he endured the cross. That's love. Yet that's brutal strength, isn't it? The fourth face is the face of a friend. This authentic man needs to be a friend and have friends. We all have a need for friends. But most men don't have real friends. And I would challenge some of you guys, when you think about it, how many friends do you have that are deep? Right? One. Not too many, if any.
It should be your dad.
Two.
There you go.
Part of the reason that we don't make time for friends is we don't value the need for a good friend to stand next to you. As a result, our relationships with men become very superficial. We talk about the game, we talk about, all the superficial stuff that men talk about. Talk about the Lakers, talk about the Dodgers, and we make no connection whatsoever. We do that in the church all the time. When's the last time we sat down with someone here in the church and had a meaningful heart-to-heart conversation? Not many. Me and this guy do all the time. And I appreciate this guy. You can't climb the mountain of manhood disconnected from other men. You're going to fall. You got to clamp up, support each other. We must be connected. Who's going to speak truth to your life? Who's going to encourage you? Who's going to keep you accountable? Who's going to help sharpen you and train you if you don't have other men in your life speaking truth to you? So what happens is we rely on the other men in our life. The buddies. The ones we hang out with that call you and say, "Hey, let's go over there to have a few drinks." And what are they talking about? Women. Womanizing. What are they talking about? Other things that are counter to what you believe. And you get led down that road. We see it all the time. How many men get pulled down that road? That's a whole lot easier to go drink with my buddies than it is to have meaningful relationships and help each other. This face of this man is reflecting a connecting energy, an energy to connect and go deeper. The face of the friend is characterized by loyalty, accountability, someone that's going to challenge you to be a better version of you. Fun and adventure. This face is seen in Scripture in Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times. So a man sharpens the countenance. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Another scripture says, woe to the man that is alone, for when he falls, there's nobody there to pick him up. And then, of course, Proverbs 27:17, you should know this one. As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. You know, you don't become sharper without friction. And sometimes we need a little bit of friction in order to become better. To get ready to finish up here, some important observations about these four faces that we talked about. A, all too often these honorable faces of manhood are replaced by ugly caricatures. And here's what I mean by that. Again, all too often these honorable faces of manhood are replaced by ugly caricatures. When it comes to the king face, on one side, if you go too far with the king face, you become a tyrant. So you guys have that little line there, and you see the K, the king face. On one side, you go too far, you become a tyrant. Overtly ineffective. You come home and you're the brute and you're the beast and you're kicking butt, but that's not effective. That's the tyrant. If you don't go far enough on the other side of the line, you become a derelict, meaning you don't fulfill your responsibilities as a man. Does that make sense? You guys following that? Now you take the warrior face. If you go too far on one side with the warrior face, you become the destroyer, hurting people in your path, abusive and harsh. If you don't go far enough and you're on the other side of the warrior face, you become a wimp. And you've given up. And you become beaten up. Nothing more sad to see in our church men that are being beat up emotionally or physically or just by their wives. The lover face. If you go too far on one side of the lover face, you become critical and cynical.